How's everybody doing? I am Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change. Pleasure to be with you again. We're on our countdown. This is day 362. Moving right along. I was just, things are wrapping up. And I tend to fall off as I complete stuff. This is one of the biggest projects I've ever finished in my life. And I hope bigger things are to come. Oh, but some of the motivation that I usually have to really come here and do this, it just fell off a little bit. Maybe I'm a little depressed that the project's wrapping up or whatever. But then, just as I'm in a relaxed mode, I intended to come here and do this and knock out the rest of this uh, in one shot. CNN is now going through another news cycle. Another black man has had his air cut off. A cop has got him subdued, has other goons around. He's complaining about not being able to breathe. And the cop just literally chokes him to death. So here, America, another black man uh, caught up. Wasn't just they didn't just take him in and stuff. Whether it's a broken back, accidental shooting, beatings. I mean, listen, try to get it in your brain. This thing is real. It's deadly. What is in the American psyche that makes black men a target? That puts black women lowest on the scale, and I mean on and on, right? Right. In a perfect world, would I have 362 videos on this subject, all of them different? You know? Wow. It has to make you think and wonder. No matter who you are, where you land, by degrees, all the things we've talked about over this time, you got to be thinking like, yeah, I don't know what this Tomlin's Nyback is about. It's just this crazy black man that's stuck on something, but I think I'm starting to get it after 362 videos. It's starting to, the wheel is starting to turn there. Or maybe you need to grow something new in your mind that America has some fundamental problems. It's not being seen as a high degree of denial, lip service as far as um, coping with this illness, this national illness that we have, right? And it's not just blacks, it's any avenue of discrimination, right? We could talk about weight, age, where you grew up, your socioeconomic position, the job you have, the kind of ice cream you like, right? Um, I happen to be black, so I can't. There's a lot of issues that I can't speak on, but there's a lot of communities that can do this very thing. Not being born here, right? We can go on and on that this thing um, in America. We just don't we don't live the truth of this land. Oh boy, that has kicked off some existential Jean-Paul Sartre stuff in that moment. I can't go into that. I don't want to segue. I've got the rest of this um, project going. So as we count down, we're just going to finish out. But wow. That's an interesting thing. Listen, so today, let's get right into it. Um, we're going to talk about education reform, and I wanted to kick that off with, in light of our current events, is that, and today is May 27th, 2020. For education reform, and when we get into this, it's a two-parter. Well, again, nice to finish out a little two-parter. I like my little mini series that have come up occasionally in here. So self-determination is, I'm sorry, education reform is not going to talk about reading, writing, arithmetic, geography, elements of education. That's not what Dr. Anderson, we're coming from Dr. Anderson's material. The focus is going to be on the attitude of the community, but we recognize that the young mind is where we can really mold and lay a good foundation on on what we desire, right? We plant seeds, plant the right seeds, and when you keep some nurturing and intentions going there, the crop you get is most likely going to resemble the vision you had when you planted the seed. It's easy with agriculture. If I got a sunflower, then I'm going to expect the sunflower seeds. Well, if you plant these seeds, and I'll take my experience where the education system, a part of it is, oh, it wasn't just history, but they made sure I knew early on as a little kid that my ancestors were slaves, that my ancestors were um, forced to work and compelled and had their families split apart. I don't know where my bloodline goes. Alex Haley and any uh, other Black American that can really trace their roots directly back to a tribe in Africa. That's pretty fortunate. Um, that's not the norm. Trust me, you don't know who we are with. You know, for a lot of reasons. So our education reform that we're going to talk about here and the next time is about I don't know attitudes, philosophical approaches to maintaining community, right? Um, my my oldest brother, youngest sister, they didn't like formally graduate high school in the traditional ways that you might. When it comes to education, I've taken all the traditional steps, all the steps you find common in white communities, very much. But those two individuals seem to have a grasp on life that I'm missing. My little sister's very successful, more successful than I am, right? You don't need high school diplomas and all the traditional stuff that society's laying on you. It's, you know, um, find your opening, engage in some self determination, and move forward like that. So that's what we're going to talk about next 2 days. Um, let's introduce some material. We're in Dr. Anderson's material today. He informs a lot of what we do. I love plugging his material. This is invaluable resources to understand, get a good understanding of racism in America, how it works. So that's Black History Reader. This is Black Labor, White Wealth, and we are in PowerNomics today. Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, page 101 today. Education reform. Behind me, you see the hashtag us too symbol. You find Black women supporting each other, having community, sharing resources. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a Black Facebook experience. Also, there is a lot of places here on the internet. If you can't find your flavor on the internet, do what I did. Start your own little dealy. Um, commit yourself to 100 days, 200 days. This is a year-long project. Took a little break because for education, formal education, but you get the gist. You got a business mind. Check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School, theblackbusinessschool.com. He'll get you set up. Check him out. Tyrone Gregory, self-employed tax guy, is also another good business resource. Oh, and finally, we're kind of done with this book, so you kind of missed it in real time. But if you go back and some videos and look up Uncle Tom Cabin, we've gone through this whole text here and had a lot of great conversations around it. Education reform. I'm in transition right now in a lot of areas, a lot of things, and the it's interesting. Like I'm kind of through going back to plantations and trying to find success, good life. I got a vision of the family, to be with a woman that wants to have children, and a lot of things like that. And nothing in my life, vocationally, as far as work and stuff, and nothing is going to produce, nothing's moving me in that direction. It's all spending myself superficially. I'm sure that word is you can descriptivize that word. I'm jumbling my English now. Anyway, and so I'm telling my friends, I really want to write. I think writing will sustain me, and that's all. That's really all I want right now. I believe writing is going to be the vehicle. Um, but everybody, did you get a job yet, and all this stuff, and they have not heard or gotten on board with the idea that I'm not on the earth to find some white man's business to try to rise up in. This What have we been talking about for the past year, right? I'm 52 now, right? I'm over 50 years old. That kind of stuff is behind me. Yeah, this drugs and alcohol sucked a lot of that time and energy away from me. The system, welcomed my um, spending my energy in that way. All this stuff, right? And so, people want to know when I'm getting a job, and this is the first time I felt empowered to say, kiss my ass, world. I guess fortunately I'm burnt out. I don't have any rosy idea about putting myself out there in that way. You know, part of it's this project right here. The things I've read, seen, articulated, shared. It's like, man, I don't know. It's like I don't know, take a fish out of water and it comes out on land and breathes the air, lives the life, even flies in a plane and stuff, becomes successful, and you tell it, to go back in the water and live with Aquaman again and stuff like that. Or like the quick story I've heard a bunch of times, about the eagle's eggs rolls into a chicken hen house or something, right? And It hatches and it lives its life as a chicken. This is a big eagle. The eagle's got over 6 foot wingspan. It's giant. It's a raptor, but it's dragging its wings around the yard with the chickens. And one day it sees an eagle. He doesn't realize it's just like him flying, and this thing is soaring, wings spread. You know, it's up thousands of feet. He's like, yeah. I mean, his chicken friends probably can't even see it, but the eagle's like, wow, look at that bird go. But all his chicken friends are like, yeah, don't worry about that, man. That's you're out of your league. You're a chicken. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I'm not a chicken anymore. Education reform, you know. The reform is going to be get back to unity, collaboration, and stuff. I have trouble with that. Dr. Anderson and I diverging a little bit, but I understand what he means. It's about establishing a community mindset, which is going to be accountability and group leadership, sharing resources, and things like that. Things as you scale, it's scalable because it's what we can do. If you get it in the young minds to do this and be consistent, then they're going to, you know, try to live that same truth as they move out into the world. I mean, think about your traditions, your history, your relationships. You know, when I was small, I was just watching, I think ER. I've been watching that again, and it was they were having family time or something, or it was a guy had become a godfather, and it was a big family religious event, Catholics. And I was like, yeah, man. You know, when I was a kid, my family had a little bit of that. We had an uncle in North Jersey, and he was married to my grand aunt. And so, yeah, Thanksgivings, some holidays, we'd crowd into that little house there, and and there was dozens of people together and family and stuff and football, beer. I was too young, but you know what I mean. And yeah, that trailed off. Uncle got murdered. A lot of there was no leadership to sustain it, and it just fell off. That's a happens a lot of families, but those families that can keep that together, well, that's something you nurture. You get the kids to adopt that, sustain that, and allow the child to understand some values to sustain those kind of events when they get older, right? Um, these things are not going to happen in a vacuum. Who knows who the first person was? There had to be a cause. It doesn't matter now, but we've got resources to say, okay, I want the manner, my legacy to look like thus and so. And therefore, we've got to plant some seeds and nurture that in our young people. I don't have any young people in my ambit right now, but that'd be the ideal situation. And what Dr. Anderson he pokes at is this Anglo-Saxon individuality, right? That the European thought is, the individual must excel. We have grades, um, competition in business, things like that, where there's a leader in the sense of more dictatorship, and there's I watch some of these fights here on YouTube and stuff, where there's a champion and a winner, and there's belts and awards and all like that. And yeah, but that's a very the character and the nature of it being that polarized and so I don't know, militaristic sometimes in a sense, where it's like uh, you know now that I've risen to the top, of this competition, there is no I don't have to share anything, I am the boss. It's what some guys. I don't know if guys feel this when you watch Wonder Woman or the Wonder Woman movies, right? You see them competing, but there's a sense of community. Like the women are competing, they have community. I used to get all messed up about that because, I'm a guy. I should be out there winning, dominating. To hell with community. I still got a long ways to go to, I'll admit. But that's the idea that the women on Wonder Woman's island really understand that it's you could be the best, but you still have community, and so that's Dr. Anderson's trying to oh work on that that the black community has adopted a level of this competitiveness, individuality, individual achievement, things like that aren't going to work for a universal black community being successful, cooperating, having the same type of energy as a whole lot of other communities do. You know, um, so we've got to redefine some benefits. Show the benefits of working together, collaborating, and all those things. Broken homes are a real cancer, I think, for black folks. We got plenty of single parent homes, a high percentage run by mothers and whatnot. I'm an advocate of a two-parent family unit. I'm not uptight about gay couples. I actually know a few that have children. It's it's doesn't bother me, but it's a stable, two heads better than one, right? So it's very stable to have a child in that. It's going to give the child just some security and things like that. I'm not a child psychologist, but I know it's beneficial. It's helpful to have the two parents that are going to stay together, be committed, demonstrate commitment, um, agape, selfless love, things like that. Very important right now because the strong family unit is a challenge. Then we go back to the looking at schools and churches for the place that's going to support a healthy community, sharing resources, cooperation, accountability, leadership, things like that. Um, school is, I'm a little divided on school because school is more of a place for perpetuating the conditions that have black people messed up in the first place. They're busy jamming information in our heads, preparing us to work, you know, in a white system, and maybe our real desires are like a hobby that we get around to and stuff. But we better be on that clock for that 8, 9, 10 hours a day, uh, just so we can have health care, a home, a vehicle, and stuff. If you get that far, right? I mean, it's the quality work being an apparatus to help one live their life and self-determine, that's going way down, right? They want more energy, more of your life and time, but they give you less and less wages compared to inflation standards of living. You know, I was, traveling 3 hours a day to a part-time job that wasn't paying a living wage just to keep my head above water. I kept my overhead very low. It made a restriction on how I could live and how far I could go and everything. So schools don't. It's possible, but are they teaching the values that I'm talking about in this video? Church is much better idea. It's more voluntary, and you get at least you get a value system there with having a God and stuff like that. It's not bad stuff to have, um, and it's not going to be a place for drugs or anything like that or any crime going on. So churches are not a bad place as an alternative. All right, so as we finish up last few minutes, beware. Like I said at the top, here's going through a news cycle. Another black man killed by a white cop. Man, how tired that is. That's really just so disgusting. But it's some kind. It's a mental. It's a problem nationally. I got my note here. It says, beware of this national conditioning. Be very skeptical of what this system means. What it means to uh, be black, have black skin in this system. Understand what that means. Now, for to kind of carry this education reform a little further, is to think. Okay, we talk about community, sharing resources, accountability, leadership, things like that. But remember to always um, educate yourself about a system it's not here for the black person the way we would like to think, rosy stuff, and that it's fair, and that it goes out of its way to uh, accommodate some of the historical deficiencies placed on black folks, right? You know, educate yourself on America in its true state, right? Not what we want it to be or wish it to be, or you know, or how we can uh, I don't know, cause You try to resist it, and all these things we see in the movies, right? Um, take America for what it really is. We can know what America is by what it does consistently, right? We got a lot of allies across the board, cross section, bums to millionaires and billionaires. Yeah, we got advocates. You know, even some of our enemies may show signs of life occasionally, right? But we've got to be so aware and engaged, intentional, you know, not let our guard down because soon as we let our guard down, here's another black man killed off by some white folks. Wow. I mean, we kill each other enough. We don't need any help. I'm Thomas Nyback. That's part one of education reform, right? Remember, it's not the ABCs and one, two, threes. It's being mature in a very deadly system. I'll see you next time. This is day 362 of 365 days toward racial change. We're on the countdown. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.